Hey everyone, welcome to the Other Side of Addiction podcast. This episode is brought to you by our Platinum sponsor, Matter Behavioral Health at 265 State Street in Mount Pleasant. If you know somebody in your family or a friend that's looking for a recovery center, we highly, highly recommend Matter Behavioral. You can reach them at 435-462-2781. I say this a lot in the show. I'm just like one lucky son of a gun because I always get to be in the studio with such beautiful ladies. I mean, it's awesome. We got Janessa here. So Janessa, again, thank you for being here. Yes. Sylvia, so she's becoming a regular, which we really enjoy having her with us. And her and I have a lot in common. Well, all three of us have a lot in common because we are all on the other side. Of addictions, and even though some of the addictions are different, they're still addictions. So, ladies, thank you again so much for being here.
Absolutely.
We have our special guest today, Elaine, and we were just talking before the show. Elaine and I met at the same place that Janessa and I met. We were at a training class, I guess, with a gentleman by the name of Eric. I won't share his last name just because I just want to be safe on things.
Yes.
But we were all in this training class together, and we all got to meet. And Elaine, thank you, for following me on Facebook and following the show. And I really am grateful that you reached out and you've had some time to be able to take and spend it with us this afternoon. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed following you, seeing how you've grown this. It's why I'm part of why I'm doing my life coaching is, you want to use what you have. That's how you get through and make it, is to use what you have and help others. So I've loved watching your journey on, your bounds ahead of me because you're already up and running. But I'm watching you and every move, and cool to see you on your what's the show that you were playing a part on?
Oh, The Chosen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, The Chosen.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun to see that too.
Yeah, hoping to get back on set.
I'm famous.
Yeah, I'm a long ways away from that, but hey, as long as it not being egotistical, but just knowing that I'm famous for myself, just feeling inside that self-confidence, Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you originally from Salt Lake?
I am. Yep. I was born here in Murray, Utah, and went to Murray High. So when my parents were getting up in age, I bought a house over here in Murray to be close to them. So I was lucky enough to take care of my dad after my mother passed away.
Wow. So you remember back when Murray was like nothing, kind of like me out in West Jordan when West Jordan was nothing.
Yeah. We had the junior high was across the street there, and the police station at that time was right next to the junior high, if you can imagine. That sucked for us, those of us who wanted
it's probably better.
After school or something.
Yeah. I remember the after school stuff.
The mall wasn't there. That was all just nothing but
farmland.
Yeah, well, nobody was farming on it. We had a lot of polygamous people who lived on that street, actually.
Oh, wow.
At the time that
the big mall was Cottonwood Mall. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And when you got to travel over to Cottonwood Mall, you felt pretty cool with your parents.
And across the street was the first McDonald's.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked at the Arctic Circle on the corner of State and 6200 South, and I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken for 7 years.
Wow.
That was across from, Murray Park there on State Street. Was right where the hospital's at.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, this town has definitely changed. I liked
But
it.
yeah.
I liked it better back when we were just
Me too.
not known.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
every square inch of land is being developed.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep, for sure.
So, what have you been up to nowadays? And I know when you reached out to me and we chatted a little bit in that exercise that we did at that class that we met at, but we realized that you and I have kind of ran into the same type of paths with having somebody that we cared about battling with addiction.
Right. Yeah, so do you want me to just kind of go into my story?
You bet. Yeah.
All right. So my first real bout with addiction was with my first husband, and he was really, getting high isn't really physically addictive, but it is mentally very addictive. And so raising our kids and stuff like that, he would do it. And my kids didn't like to have their friends over because they were afraid it was going to smell like pot and stuff, and so whether he was physically addicted, he was addicted to the point he never could go without it.
Yeah.
And then he drank, but that he wasn't so much with that, but he did have a sexual addiction that became a big thing. So, and addiction is addiction, no matter what it is. It destroys other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or I can't say it always does. Maybe there are instances where it doesn't, but I think for the most part, at least in my experience, it took our family and pulled it apart. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my first time. So there I got married at 16, and we'd been married almost 30 years. And
Holy cow.
And I finally, he'd been really good for like 10 years, and then all of a sudden these little things started popping up. I was like, this seems really familiar to my doubts and my things I was feeling, that something's not right. And long story short, I'm not going down that road again. So at 50, I found myself single after being married for 30 years.
Wow.
Holy cow.
So I went through kind of a rough patch there, and dating at 50, that's a whole new experience, because how you do it online. That's back in the day, people would go to the bar, and now that's not really the way it happens. So kind of went through that whole transition. I've been very lucky in my career that I didn't even graduate high school, and but I've had some really terrific jobs because they all just kind of landed in my lap. People would call and say, oh my gosh, you'd be so good at this, you've got to come and work here. And so I worked for a place called the Utah Independent Living Center for about 13 and a half years. And I've worked with men with brain injuries and all of these different things. So I really just kind of spent some time getting into my career and working, and then I met my current husband, and that's the one. I never with my ex-husband, I never went through any real traumatic thing with his drinking or his smoking pot. It was the sexual thing that was our deal. But with Brad, it's been nothing but the drinking. And so we met, and I probably should have known from the beginning before I married him that this is his 5th marriage. That tells you something. But the story from him was, of course, it was all the wife's fault. Now I'm a wise enough woman at 50 to know that's not true, and there's 2 sides to the story.
Yes, there is.
But so he always drank just from the moment I met him. But in the beginning, it didn't really affect anything, but after a period of time, probably a year into it, and he had me at that time. This was before we were married, and I lived at his house, and I was supposed to be paying him rent, and I had lost a job that I was at, and after that, my next jobs were was working for 3 different companies all at the same time.
Wow.
And so I was going all day, all night. I'd go get a guy up out of bed in the morning. I'd go take care of 2 or 3 different people. Then I'd come back at night and have to put him to bed. And I was just running all over the valley, driving to different people's houses and taking care of them. And it just kind of, it started to get to a point where at the end of the month, he'd be like complaining that, oh my gosh, I need more money from you. You've got to start paying more rent, because what I was giving him, he was spending all on alcohol. Mm-hmm. And so he was getting behind on his bills, and then that became my fault. So that was probably the beginning of our road down, for me, where I started. And then he just would be mean, for no good reason. And he'd say things that were like, what? Everything then became my fault from that moment on, it seemed like. If I was doing laundry and I didn't fold his underwear in this perfect little ball that he likes it in, oh my gosh, dude, you'd think the world had come to an end. So so I began drinking, because when he would get angry, he's very loud and very in your face. He's a biker from Detroit, Michigan, if that tells you anything about about him. How he can get right in your face, angry type, person when he's not happy.
Yeah.
And so I started drinking because I thought, hey, if I felt like I wasn't sticking up for myself, and so when I drank, it gave me that liquid courage, I guess you'd call it, to stand up for myself, and I'd go toe to toe with him and get in his face and whatnot. So it was kind of that thing going on, and then I had been drinking one afternoon, and I guess I didn't realize how much I had drank. But I'd gone to work, got this guy up out of bed, came home, was doing some gardening out in the backyard, was having a couple of drinks. I thought, okay, I got to go to work here in a little bit. So I laid down, I took a nap, I got up, got my car, drove, and I got a car accident. And it was very severe. They wanted to cut my leg off.
Oh, geez.
My leg. So I'm very lucky. I had a wonderful doctor who changed his mind and said, you know what, I think I can fix this. And he did. Oh, well, at that moment, now here I am completely dependent on this man who's already angry that I'm not paying him enough money and rent.
Yeah.
So things really went downhill, from there. I was I was in the hospital for 4 weeks before I was even able to come home.
Wow.
Um, and he rarely came to the hospital to see me. But that's because his habit was, as soon as he got home from work, he'd drink and then he'd pass out by 8 o'clock at night. So he wasn't willing to give up that drinking time to come see me.
Gosh, that had to make you feel lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really lucky that I had my parents and my kids and family and friends and things that were there. So it didn't, I just chalked it up. That didn't really bother me too much. I just kind of chalked it up to, oh yeah, I know him well enough to know he's home drinking.
Yeah.
And that's all right, So, I was on, a lot of pills and things for my pain and stuff. And I had to have 2 more surgeries. And so I was completely laid up and dependent on him to leave me, to fill up an ice thing in the morning and put it by the bed where I, could have something to drink. And, my parents and neighbors were coming and bringing food. And he was just angry, from that moment on, he was just angry. And when he would get angry, he'd say, well, you know what? He'd threaten to throw me out. And, so that just kind of became the norm where, he was threatened to throw me out at every moment. And my mom actually helped out and gave me some money to give to him to help pay for the rent. But, that wasn't enough. It wasn't him giving me a shower. It was, friends and family and things like that I had, which that added a lot to this too, because I was the caretaker. So for me to be the one who was completely, it was a very different side of, what I've been doing for others for my whole life. Very humbling. But so I was drinking along with the pills and whatnot. Let me tell you, before the car accident, there was a time where I was really upset with him, and I had been drinking, and my son didn't live more than a few blocks up from there. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'm just going to hop in the car and drive there. I'll be fine. Well, I must have gotten so far and then decided this is a bad idea. And I pulled into somebody's driveway, and I guess I'd left the lights on, and I must have passed out. And next thing I know, I was waking up in the hospital, get my stomach pumped.
Oh, geez. Holy cow.
So, I didn't have any idea I was that out of it when I went and got in the car. I honestly never would have, done that. But, a poor choice on my side, trying to, do what I had to do to get through all of this painful stuff. So, long story short, with him, not being happy, with having to take care of me and not getting enough money in, he said, well, you just might as well move out. And I finally, was on the phone with my mom, and I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And she called my brother, apparently, and I got a phone call from my brother, and he said, when do you want to get out? I got the truck. We'll come get you tomorrow. That's what you want to do. So my brother and his kids came. I had all my grandkids there and friends there helping me pack all my stuff up in just, a couple of days. Brad's so drunk he literally fell down the stairs. It was just a disaster. 2 days of hell. And at this point, I think I still had a cast on my arm, and he lived in a split level, right? And I literally, Al, had to sit on my butt because it was the only way I could get down the stairs. I had to sit on my butt and go stair to stair to stair on my butt.
Oh, geez.
Oh my gosh.
And I'd go downstairs, I'd pack a bunch, and then I'd have to come back upstairs, and with the same way on my butt. And he just had no inkling. No, there was no care in him at all, you know, concern that, oh my goodness, maybe I should be helping or anything, because I'd called his bluff, you know, and I was actually leaving this time. And I think a lot of men have a habit of thinking that their wives will never reach that breaking point, and sometimes you know, you never know when it's going to be, but it does happen. So
Yeah.
From there, I moved in with my mother, and started getting, you know, quite a bit better. I wasn't drinking at my mom's, so, you know, but he was still calling on the phone. My mom gave him some more money at that point, because he called and threatened me, and so my poor mother gave him like $1,000 or something like that, and said, you know, that should clear any debt you think she has to you. Leave her alone. So I stayed at my parents for a few months, and then I had the opportunity to buy this house here in Murray that was literally three streets up from my parents' house. So perfect location, and bought that, moved in, and then here came Brad again, calling, and, you know, he was so sorry, and he just couldn't believe how mean he had been to me. And I mean, he just laid it on, you know, how sorry he was. And I am just out. My downfall is loving people too much.
Yeah. Loving and trusting.
People, yes, I am inherently one of those people who tries to see the good in everyone. And the stuff that is not so good, I think somehow I've always had this blessing of being able to see who somebody is when they're not this.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep,
like, I don't
absolutely.
think a lot of people get a clear picture like I do. I always have had that gift. So I've taken a lot more than I should in things, because I see that good person. I can vision that good person, and I know if that person stood up to who they really are, this is who they would be. And so I forgive. You know, I feel like it's not my place not to forgive. I leave that to God, you know, to do that. So with the person who's, you know, a drunk, they take total advantage of that kind of person. And anyway, so long story short, we started seeing each other again, and he was losing his house at this point, because, you know, without me paying him anything, he had a couple people move in, and that didn't go over very well. So anyway, he was losing his house, so he moved in with me, and we ended up getting married. And, you know, at first he was, you know, really good, because that was the whole thing, you know, is I'm not going to get married to you if you're going to be drinking. And so he had quit drinking, and, you know, I believed him and thought he seemed sincere. He was acting very different in the way that he was No, he is not a person that apologizes very often.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him to be apologizing to me so, severely as he was, and he apologized to my parents, and I mean, he went through the whole 9 yards. And that's another thing to me. If someone's asking for my forgiveness, there needs to be some action going behind that before I'm going to forgive you. And in my case with him, he was taking what I felt were those actions to amend for, what he'd already put me through up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were going to church even at that time. In fact, it was our bishop who married us. We just got married over in the steakhouse here. And, so I thought we were starting out on a good foot. But it probably wasn't 6 months into it, I'd say. We're at 7 years right now of being together. We've been married for 5 of it. And yeah, so about six months into it, then he started, drinking again, and it was just 3 days of good, 4 days of bad. Then the next week it would be, 4 days of good and 3 days of bad. You never knew when it was going to be. So it was just always this up, down, up, down, up, down. And, I still take pain pills. How I get through with my bad leg. And, now I have the bad knee to add to the others. They couldn't be on the same leg, bad knee and the bad leg.
Yeah.
For once, so now I really can't walk. But
compensating for the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So now I forgot where I was though.
You were just saying that you were, it was up and down, so it was like 4 days of good or 3 days of bad or vice versa. And,
Right.
Yeah.
And so again, I started with the drinking, thinking that was going to help. And, it just never does. It doesn't help. You can't match them. You can try, but, mind you, his drinking to me was different than from other alcoholics. Like my brother's an alcoholic, but he drinks, beer. And so you never know how much beer he's actually drank. I don't anyways. I just know that that's his addiction. But with Brad, he was drinking one of the gallons,
Gosh.
in a day,
Wow.
every day.
wow. And he's a big guy too, if I remember right.
It was, it was from the time he'd get home and he'd drink about, anywhere from half to 3/4 of that in 2-3 drinks,
Oh, geez.
And then, so it got to where I was just happy for him to have those drinks so he would just pass out,
Yeah.
I was thankful for him just passing out.
And isn't that crazy, Elaine, that we get to that point? Because when my wife was in the depth of her drinking, that seemed like that's the only way that I had my peace. I was waiting for her to pass out. But to my surprise, she would just keep going on and keep going on. And there's times I thought, oh, okay, good, she's out. And then like 5 minutes later, she's back out and she's screaming and yelling at me. And I'm like, damn, you're still not out?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely days like that too. And for me, I would have 2-3 drinks. That's all it takes for me. And I mean, mine are, I don't know, I might have like an inch of that at the bottom of my glass with a Coke.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 3 or 4 of those, and I'm tanked. So a big difference in
Mm-hmm.
our drinking, even when I was trying to drink to get up to his level. um, but there were times when I was in that pain where I was like pouring it in there and making some pretty heavy, drinks. So just because I was so lost and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what to do, and um, I wasn't working at the time because of my accident. I was not able to return. So that was the whole depression thing. I was already
Yeah.
depressed about that because I couldn't return to the work that I loved doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, found out in the aftermath that I told you I was working for 3 different um, home care facilities, and they were all startups because this was back when that was kind of just a new thing and people were just
Yeah.
starting this little in-home care. And so the 3 different people I was working for all were brand new companies, and they only had themselves and maybe, if they were lucky, 2 or 3 employees that they could afford to pay. And so when I had that car accident, couldn't go anymore, that left them really, strapped, where they had to go out and do it. And in fact, one of the managers actually quit. He was it was a partnership, and the one was like, I can't do this after I left. But that tells you how much I was working,
Wow.
because I was doing like 5 clients for each person. So I had like 15 clients
My gosh.
that I was doing on a, weekly basis. But anyway, I couldn't return to doing that because of that. So I wasn't working. So, I was, again, here we are in this, you don't help me with anything. And, I was trying to get my disability, but it wasn't, going fast enough for him. And so my depression got really bad there for a minute, and I had all these pills, and I just took handfuls of this stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't fall asleep. I wasn't falling asleep fast enough. I just wanted to go to sleep and be done. And it wasn't happening fast enough. So I filled up the tub, and I had this smart idea. I was going to get in the tub and I would just
Sink down.
sink down. Well, that wasn't happening fast enough. So then I tried to hold my nose
Oh my gosh.
and put my head under the water. And I couldn't do that because I needed to breathe. So here I was looking for this way out, and then nothing seemed to be working. So, oh my gosh, trying to get out of that tub, that was a nightmare. I could barely move. Once, I don't even know, to be honest, how I got out of the tub, but I do remember literally almost slithering like a snake to get over to my bed, where I could get from the floor up onto my bed.
Wow.
And I did. And Brad was out here passed out, so he had no idea what was going on in there. And I never actually, I only have ever talked to anyone about that story recently, probably over the last year.
Wow.
I talked to my sister about it, and I never told my mother. That was my first attempt. Like, the other thing that happened, that wasn't an attempt of me trying to kill myself. That was an accident, right?
Yeah.
This was my first attempt at doing it, and it adds to your depression anyways, because at least if you're like me, I'd always had that feeling that, if you tried to kill yourself. It was the easy way out, and I would never, ever, ever be in that position. And in fact, for years, the whole 13 and a half years I was working for UILC, I taught about drug addiction, and I taught about alcoholism, and alcohol and drinking and driving, and all of those things. And I taught about depression, and I taught about, what suicide and the prevention of that. And at the high schools, and the junior highs, I talked to them about this stuff for 14 years. And so I just never saw myself as being that person that would go to that place.
To that extreme.
And so when you do, then afterwards, your depression, you're already depressed, but then that adds another level to it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're like, my gosh, how could I have done that to myself? So after I got past that, which took, I don't know how long, I finally woke up and was like, what are you doing? You have got to get yourself out of this spiral. And I just started taking care of myself, started losing weight, and just, concentrating on me and not letting him affect me. I, stopped drinking, and that's, when the opportunity to start my daycare came into play.
Well, you started, Janessa and I was just talking about it on our earlier show. You started having that self-care, because we talked about that earlier. There's a lot of different ways of having self-care, and when you start really caring more about yourself, it really helps. It's not a quick fix, of course, but it really helps start pulling you away from what's dragging you down. We got to stop for a quick commercial break, but when we come back, okay. I'd like to go into that a little bit more, because I know where you were at, because I ended up being on that same boat, and I don't think a lot of people out there who don't understand addiction, especially us on the other side, it's hard for us, but it's so easy for us to go down that same rabbit hole that they're in, and it's because we love them. It's because we care about them, and we're willing to try anything we possibly can, So when we come back, let's touch base a little bit on that, if everybody's okay with it. So guys, stay with us. Good. We'll be right back.
Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunk and flat work for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the other side of addiction. Again, we want to thank our platinum sponsor, Matter Behavioral, at 265 State Street in Mount Pleasant, Utah, 435-462-2781. If you know someone who's battling with addiction and is looking for a good recovery center, we highly recommend getting a hold of Matter, because those guys are awesome over there. Janie and Whitney and Jackie and Bria, Cindy, they're just all phenomenal people. Again, ladies, thank you for joining us today here in the studio. You know, right before we went to the commercial break, you were talking about Elaine, how not at the start, but there in the tub, how, you were thinking about just ending it, because that's where you get to a point when you have somebody that you care about dealing with addiction. It really takes you down, and I know Sylvia right now can understand, because and again, this isn't my place to share. She's talked about it in a podcast, but man, it eats you up. You don't sleep.
Yeah.
You
Right.
you have a hard time eating.
Yeah.
You're wondering what is it that you can do to change things. So you actually started drinking, even though you were on medication, just to try to. Me, and I've shared this on a show before, and I don't know if these two ladies have even heard this, but I got to a point where I went out and bought Coke, and was doing Coke with my wife, going, okay, she's not going to lose control like she does with alcohol.
Right.
That's how my mindset was working, going, hey, we'll just switch one with another and we'll see where this one goes, because I'd rather get rid of that.
Yeah.
And really, it didn't change anything, and I got to that same point where I wanted to go home and get my gun and go up in the mountains and take my life, and it hurts so bad. And the person that's battling the addiction I really don't think they realize the suffering and the pain that they're putting on the rest. Janessa, you've gone through it, not with the drugs and alcohol, but with the sexual, addiction. It's still, Elaine said it earlier, addiction's an addiction. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah,
it still affects the families the same way. Just some are a little harder, maybe, than others, but man, when you care and you love somebody, it is so difficult to watch them go through that struggle, and then you end up waking up one day and you're going,
I can't do this anymore.
Holy shit, I can't do this anymore,
Well, for me, it's my children, and I don't have a choice of divorcing my children.
Yeah.
And so the pain that I've been going through, I could not get out of bed. Even coming today I was an hour late, because you're paralyzed with the trauma and the fear. I had my son arrested this weekend. It is unbelievable, the anguish that you feel when it's your children, because I can't walk away from them I can't say I'm going to divorce you. It's like, oh my gosh,
Right.
if this kills him, it will kill me too.
Oh yeah, it takes a part
Yeah.
of you, and even when I was going to Al-Anon, I was the only one in the whole group that had a spouse. Every single person that in the class that I was going to, it was all from one of their children.
Oh, wow.
Especially as a mom, it's that mother bear. I mean, you're there to nurture, to care, to love, no matter
Right.
what it takes, and you're going to do whatever
Yeah.
you can to have that. And then, but yeah, when you're with a spouse, it is a little different because
you have an option.
because you can.
Walking away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do, and I think a lot of people do, and they don't have that opportunity to see that person on the other side, like Al, with your wife being able to, as hard as it was getting through it all, you're now in a great and a wonderful place, and so, but I think most of the time people get out sooner, and just so they don't get to that place where they're actually able to see that person differently. And who's to say when is the right time to leave, and when's you never know if they're going to turn the corner next week.
Yeah, that's true.
And so,
Well, I think it's such a personal matter. I mean,
it's a hard thing.
I mean, when I remember there was a time where I was like, I'm gonna divorce my husband because he just wouldn't stop relapsing over and over. It didn't matter how much therapy we had been in. I was like, this isn't gonna end, and I can't do this anymore. And I attempted to take my life, but I was pregnant, and it stopped me because I was like, I've got a baby, I can't do that.
Well, and two,
Right.
it's the father of your children.
Yeah.
If you have 4 children, how do you? This is part of them too.
Yeah.
This
You
is
can't
their
just
their
leave
father.
'em.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
And
Right.
but I had this, I remember distinctly being like, I'm gonna divorce my husband. I can't do this anymore. I had a plan of where I was gonna live. I had a job, I was gonna start, and I had family members that were like, we'll watch the kids and stuff. And I remember just having this feeling. It was like, go and pray. And I was like, I was so pissed off. I was like, I don't want to pray. But so I did. And I just had this overwhelming feeling that was like, it was like, I know your husband's going to get through this. You don't believe it right now. You don't see it. But I know he's going to get through this. Just keep hanging on. And I was so pissed. I was like, I'm so done. I want to be done with this. I just want to walk away. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to. I've been holding on for how long, And but it worked out. I mean, we're in a really, really happy spot now. I mean, he's been sober for almost 2.5 years, and I'm glad I held out. But I know it's not the case for everyone. I have a friend who, she did the same thing, but her answer was, it's time to leave.
yeah,
You're done. He's not going to change. Again, God knows their hearts.
Right.
He knows if they're going to change or not, and he will tell you.
Yeah,
right.
that is so true.
I'll tell you what, that reminded me, though, when you said something about praying. and I gotta tell you, I at a point was so frustrated, and I have this great, she's my doctor, and she's a practitioner, and so we talk for like an hour and a half every appointment, and she's one of those people who just can make you feel like gold. Well, at a certain point, she's like, Elaine, you are married to a narcissist, and he is never going to change, and you need to get out. It's very difficult to tell the difference between a narcissist and a drunk. they're
Drunk narcissist.
Yeah.
I know the Brad's a narcissist because when he's not drinking, he still has a lot of those same tendencies if he's not careful. But when he's not drinking, I can point it out and be like, it's like he'll say something like, I love you so much, even though you've gained wait.
Oh. You know, they call that the
like
charming bully.
Charming bully.
And I look at
Oh my
him and I go,
gosh.
you know,
That's so
and he'll
mean.
say,
It
and the
is.
weight doesn't even bother me, or just
Oh.
something like that.
What a
It's like,
nice guy.
You're such a narcissist. I mean, that I just laugh
Yeah.
at it. You know, when he's not drinking, I can just laugh at it and be like, he didn't have the upcoming where he learned that's not. You don't say I love you so much and you are so beautiful and you're my everything today. Even though
Even though.
even though we're this butt at the end of it. So we're working on that, even though he's so. But I was gonna say about the praying thing. I got to the point where I literally was praying for him to die.
Yeah, I know that
That's okay.
feeling.
Yeah, I was like, we've
We've done
probably
that.
all been there.
I was also praying for
Either
him.
me or him.
In fact, me and my practitioner even talked about it, and I said, how much of my pills would it take for me to give him, for him to,
Oh,
die?
man.
Oh, jeez.
We actually talked about it, and she says, you know what, Elaine? As your practitioner, I really
We should not be having this conversation.
She didn't say
my
that. She
gosh.
said, I really cannot give you the exact amount. That's what she told me. So
That just shows what a
Bless
tough
her-
spot
bless her
you're
heart.
in.
But you,
she did. She knew it was just a horrible place, and I also prayed for him to get a ticket on his way home from work, because what he was doing, he would have but he thought I didn't know. He was hiding it from me. Quote, quote.
They always think you don't know.
yeah.
That he was having some drinks before he would even go to work. He had to. There's no way he could not, and then drink on the way there, because if he didn't drink, he's shaking really severely,
Withdraws.
where people would know there was something up. So, but he thought he was hiding that from me, and then he would take a jug to work with him, and so by the time he got home from work, he was already drunk. Okay, before he even walked in the door. So it wasn't even like I got an hour of a sober person when he first got home from work. I stopped driving with him. We used to ride on the motorcycle, and
Oh my gosh.
I just absolutely refused to get on the motorcycle anymore. We had a fall one day, and he was blaming me and telling me, oh, it's because you were leaning the wrong way or something, something like that. And from that time on, I refused to ride with him, and he could never figure it out. And I'd say, well, because I'm not risking my life like that anymore. I've done it. I've been there. I've done. And I said, I don't know how you can do that and drive your car and every day, being drunk like that. And so I prayed that he would get a ticket, and I told my mom to pray that he would get a ticket. And I know there were other people who were praying for him to get a ticket, and he finally did get a ticket.
Wow.
And so I thought, oh, good, this will become the end. But his kids tell me they think he's got a personality disorder, but he deals. Most of these alcoholics have their own underlying problems with depression or whatever it is, but their way of taking care of it is the drinking. And so he would lose his job, and then he gets this ticket. And so now it's 3 months of him feeling sorry for himself. He's not, he's gonna sit on unemployment for a couple of weeks while he, finds another job. And at this point now it's all day, all night.
Oh my gosh.
Like he would, drink for 4 hours, pass out for 3, get up, drink for 4, pass out for 3. It was just non-stop, and so he had this pattern, and he would do that, and then he would get better, and he maybe would quit even for a couple of months or something, and then he would be up here again, and then boom, something would hit and he'd be back down here, and we'd do that all over.
Oh my
For the
gosh.
last 5 years, that's what it's been. Like that. And I got to that point too, where I finally was like, you know what, I'm done. I started my company, so I started looking for places, you know, to move, and I moved my money that I had, because I had gotten my money for my for disability, so I had a chunk of money there for a minute, and I moved that all out so he wouldn't have access to it, and opened up my own bank account. Well, I never even, you know, told him. And then he finally, you know, woke up and he says, I'm done. I'm never going to, you know, start again. So I ended up not moving out. And all of a sudden one day he went to the store and he went to use that bank card and it wouldn't work. And so he came home and was like, oh, what's the deal with that bank card? And I, you know, I said, oh, so he hadn't quit drinking yet. And I said, oh, well, because I'm looking at places and, you know, planning to move out. You don't really want me here anymore, right? And, you know, I mean, for the way you're acting and whatnot. And so it was after that he quit, when he actually thought that I was serious about leaving. It scares them, whether they are willing to admit it or not. You know, it scares them to be left alone. I mean, there was this is what led to my finally saying, I'm done, I'm leaving. It was during that 3-month time where he was drinking all day, all night. He'd go outside, he'd be working on his truck, he'd pass out underneath his truck, he'd be out there for, you know, it'd be like 2 a.m. in the morning and he's passed out underneath his truck. Or he was working on a trailer one day. I go out to find him and he's passed out. I mean, there was only, I don't even know how he fit in there, but he was between the trailer and our fence, and he passed out right there. And he was like,
oh my gosh.
And you know what? I just left him.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You know, if I woke him up, he'd just start screaming at me, and so I would just leave him in all these different predicaments. Well, it's a Friday night and our neighbor comes over and we were sitting there chatting by the truck, and I was kind of in and out. We were getting ready to go camping, and so I was loading up the camper, and Brad's leaning against the truck and he starts to spill his drinks, kind of spilling. And so, you know, I hear the neighbor say to him, hey dude, you know, grab your drink, you're about to spill it there, or it is spilling. And I look up and I said, oh gosh, that means he's going to go down in any second, right? And I look over and poof, he is just face first on the driveway. Now. And so, sorry, I'm laughing. It wasn't really funny at the time, but now I look at it and I'm like, oh my, it just seems so ridiculous to me. But so the neighbor says, well, you know, oh my gosh, you want me to help you get him in the house? I'm like, no.
No,
why would I do that? I said, he does this all the time. He's fine. I said, you just need to leave him alone, because if you wake him up now, he's going to be
a bear.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it. So just leave it there. Well, you know, the neighbor's really concerned about him. So I'm like, he's like, don't you think we should at least put the light on, make sure he's not bleeding or something? I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm really like, this is stupid. I do not want to do this. So we look, and I mean, his elbows are bleeding and his head's bleeding, and he's laying on his stomach and his head's, you know, turned. And the neighbor says, oh my gosh, he's not breathing. So next thing I know, he's flipping him over and he's giving him
mouth to mouth,
CPR,
mouth to mouth. And I am on, you know, the phone calling 911. And so they come and they get him. And, you know, at this point, you know, the neighbors talked to him and said, hey, he's really abusive with his wife. So we get to the hospital and, you know, they're guarding me, like, you know, they take me into a little office and talk to me, and, you know, say, hey, somebody will be there, they'll have a cop at the door and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, there wasn't anything they weren't going to arrest him or anything. It was for my safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, I'll go in and I'll sit with him for a minute. And I said, if he wakes up and he starts yelling at me, I said, I'm out. You know, I called his daughter, and that's when she, you know, was like, oh my gosh, Elaine, you just need to get out. You know, his kids have pretty much had it up to here. He talks to his son now, and he talks to his daughters a little bit here and now, but they I don't know that they, for the most part, they haven't been a part of his life other than his son. So I'm there at the hospital. He opens his eyes and immediately he starts, you know, what the fuck did you do this for? Sorry.
No, it happens.
and looks at me with this stare of he's literally wants to kill me because I called 911. So I came home. I said, I'm out of here. I said, I can't, I'm not going to sit here and hold his hand. That's bull crap. So I went home. 6 o'clock in the morning rolls around and he calls me and he's madder than a wet hen. Get your butt down here and I'll clean up the words to pick me up. And so I drive down there. He's yelling at me on the way out to the car because he got to the car before I did, and it had an automatic lock, and so it locked it on his side. Oh, and mind you, he's in the hospital gown. He just ripped the stuff out of his arms as soon as
man.
come around the corner. And so he's walking down the, you know, hallway there with his ass hanging out, and all the way out to the car, and he's yelling at me, and I've got a cop following us. And I, at that point, said, you know what, I'm not getting in that car with you right now, with you being
like that.
like that. So I turned around, went and sat on the bench outside the hospital, and the cop, you know, said to me, he says, well, we could arrest him for indecent exposure.
Exposure.
Yeah.
And for something with the alcohol, but not, can't remember what it was, but it was a really light thing. So he's like, you'd be in and out, and it's up to you, because probably if you do that, as angry as he is now, it's gonna be worse for you. And I said, oh yeah, totally, so don't worry about that. Well, in the meantime, he's walking down State Street.
Oh my gosh.
In the gown?
In the morning. He did not care. Not one bit.
Oh my gosh.
And so I left after a minute, and sure enough, picked him up just before he'd gotten home. And
so you walked home?
I cannot even tell you the screaming that went on.
Oh my gosh.
When we got into the house. He was, if you were gonna call, I should have called the VA. And not, because now he's gonna have to pay for this. And I just called 911, and
yeah.
I got, we're in Murray. Of course I got IHC came, but he was madder than a wet hen that it, was at. And then he was mad at the neighbor, and yeah, it was just, he was going to go down and kill the neighbor for saving his life. He should have just let him die. That's what he said.
Did he want to die? Do you think he was trying to end it all?
He's so in that rut at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I meant by the up and down. His rut was bad,
Mm-hmm.
and he would do this to that point, hoping that, he would just kill over and die. Well, it wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so here he was. I mean, he was just, that's what he was angry about, was that I didn't just, he should have just left me alone and let me die. He said, recently we were talking about it, and he said, well, I do have a, what do you call it? A
DNR?
Yeah, a DNR. I said, oh, well, I haven't seen it. And, really, I would consider that a DNR for your husband who's drunkenly passed out. Would you know? I mean, I personally, if I'd have known, I would have said to the neighbor, you know what?
Just got a DNR.
But, the neighbor was already looking at me like, because I was not worried about checking him out, and I was fine with leaving him out on the driveway. And, and that was something that was so hard too, is that you sink into this place of hatred and bitterness and just awfulness that you're feeling. And you're like, it's not me. This is not me. I can't. And so that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
Is that you go to places that you never imagined taking yourself to. I never imagined.
You never thought you would.
About, oh man, I wish you just died tonight.
But sometimes
I thought about drugging him. I seriously.
Sometimes that's what you think. You know what really shocked me, Elaine? I went to go visit my wife's mom. She was living in one of those self-care places where they help out, because her health was really starting to go bad. And I went to go visit her, and my wife was in, I don't even remember. She was either in a rehab or in jail at the time. And she was asking me, she's like, how's my daughter? And I started telling her what had been going on. And this shocked me, what she said. Literally floored me. She goes, maybe it would be better if she did die. And it took me so off guard. And then, there was this pause, and then she goes, Al, at least she wouldn't be suffering anymore. And for a mom to say that about her own child. Now, let me back up a little bit, because her husband was an addict. I mean, he ended up passing away from a heroin overdose. So she went through a lot. And let me tell you, my wife's mom was an incredible, incredible woman. Very, very religious. Just, that woman's gone through a lot and still stayed with her husband, still fought through. I mean, she had 6 kids. She's the one that was pretty much working her tail off to keep, food on the table and thing once the husband started getting away from things. But, it's probably what she thought at times too, because of, there was times he'd be gone for days. Had no clue where he was at. No clue.
Right. Yeah.
That's hard. That's hard to deal with. And I actually literally at times, like you, Elaine, thought the same thing. Maybe it would be best that she just doesn't wake up after this drunk. And then I would feel so frickin' guilty and beat myself up that I'm even thinking something like that. But that's where it takes you. I mean, it literally takes you to that point, because you get so overwhelmed with that roller coaster ride.
So hopeless.
It's
and that's why the self-care stuff comes in and is so important. Because if I didn't have my company at that time that I was putting all of my, efforts into, while all of that was happening, I probably, would have attempted another suicide, or, I might have continued drinking, or, whatever. And so once you're able to hit that place where, you just are not going to affect me anymore. Yeah. I'm taking my power back, and there's nothing you can say or do to me that is going to affect me. And I started actually listening to some, podcasts on narcissism, and learned some tricks of how to shut him down before he would start screaming, and that was really helpful, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helped me
They really
helped
are.
me to be able to say, well, I'm sorry that you're thinking that, particular thing of whatever it is he would
Put it
say.
back on them.
And I would say, I'm sorry that that's what you're thinking, but for me, this is my belief. And then you just walk out of the room, and a narcissist just sits there, or a drunk, whichever, and sitting there going, well, what the heck just happened?
Yeah.
Now what am I supposed to do? Because they're planning on
Yeah.
going off on you for 20 minutes because that's what you've allowed them to do. I mean, we get into such a rut too sometimes that we just sit there and let them do it, and that also is a whole nother shame and guilt, because
Oh my gosh, yeah.
you don't talk to other people who you don't want to tell anybody how serious it is.
Yeah.
You just, it's embarrassing,
brutal
so you
cycle.
isolate yourself. And my mom, bless that woman's heart, would, after a couple of weeks of, because we would talk every day, and if I'd go 4 weeks without, talking to her, and she would call and be like, okay, you're done. I've given you 4 weeks. And then I would just
Oh yeah. Because all those emotions are being
on my
held
poor
up.
mother. And, one morning one of the times when I was trying to out drink him, I was so angry at that night, and I did my first. I drank through the whole night, and so I took his entire case of alcohol and dumped it down the sink.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
And if you can imagine,
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
how
was
angry he
angry.
was when he got up, and he pushed me. It was the first one and only time he's ever laid hands on me, but he shoved me, and I fell backwards into the stove, and the glass on the stove front just
Oh my god.
shattered into a million pieces.
Hmm.
And I had fell into the glass, so my hands were getting cut up, and my
He shoved
I
you really
fell.
hard.
I just fell in a really awkward way, so I called my mom, and my mom called the police, and so now he hated my mother, and my mom was the devil spawn, because can't
could you
believe
do
she
that?
called the police.
Yeah.
Like, what you want her to do? She's my mother. And
Well, and
just
what other
grab
option
me.
do you
Yeah.
have when they're pushing you up against the wall? You're in a corner. That is leverage.
Right.
The only leverage you may have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
Yeah.
you use that?
Right. Exactly. I was thinking, oh man, that might even get me a couple of days if they just take him away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Couple days
didn't?
apeace.
Oh no,
What?
no.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
he went to work, and yeah, that was that. But
Wow.
yeah, there's so many little things like that. So this last time that he quit now, like I say, it's been about 10 months. He was back in one of those ruts where, he went to that training with us there, and
Yeah.
and he, oh man, he got a lot out of that. But it was that was his first taste of any kind of a training like that. I did that with my husband years and years ago, and I've been to many trainings over the years. So Eric's thing was nothing new to me. But if you can imagine, for him, being this Detroit biker, this is the first time he's ever experienced any kind of a training like that, where he had to kind of he had to look at himself there for a half second.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's never done that. He needs something like that is something that is continuous, because my concern now is, yes, once again, he's quit drinking for 10 months, but he hasn't done anything to help with his depression. And so what happens when that swing comes back up
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
and he's not drinking, and what would happen in the past when he wasn't drinking, all of a sudden he'd show up home with a bottle, not only for him, but he was so sweet to always get one for me. He'd buy a case and come home with a pint for me. And
Like your
he'd be like,
kids.
well,
I got one
I
for
was
you,
just
Mom.
thinking we could light a fire and we could go out in the backyard and, we could just have one night of it, I, him thinking he's only got a gallon, not that he, went and bought
Yeah.
a case, because he's got that hidden out in his car.
Mm.
So it's just going to be this one night. That's how he would do it. I probably 2 of the times that he quit drinking, that's what he did. And, one drink for him does nothing. And so, he's not there. Drunks are not the kind of people who I like to have a couple drinks just to, hey, I can get on the dance floor because I don't care what people think about me. Or,
Yeah.
To relax.
you know what I mean? Like to relax and just get your chill on. For them, there's no such thing as that.
They're looking for that certain feeling that they had when they first started. But what happens is after time and
Tolerance.
And I don't know if it's this way with drugs or not, but for alcohol I do know. Yeah, with time you start drinking more because you're not getting that buzz. Now for my wife,
Right.
She wanted to get to that buzz so quickly, she would drink as fast as she could. I mean, she would probably go through
Oh my gosh.
a pint probably within about 15 minutes. Because
wow.
she wanted to feel that buzz as quick as possible. The problem is she would pass that buzz because once it hit her, she was done. That alcohol hit her so quick.
Right. Well, that was like Brad because, his one drink for him was a pint. One drink.
Yeah.
So
my
3
gosh.
drinks into it, and he's 3/4 of the way through that bottle. He would drink in a cup like this. Okay, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
But one of the big cups, the biggest cups you can get. And then he would fill it with ice, and then the little teeny tiny cans of pineapple juice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're just tiny. He would pour that in, and then the rest of it was alcohol.
Wow.
So basically it's straight alcohol.
Ugh.
gosh.
Yeah.
Right. So, after not drinking for 7 months, having a drink, for him, it didn't matter how strong it wasn't going to do anything to
Yeah.
him because he already had that tolerance.
Yeah.
Well, so this last time he was, doing the whole going to bed at 5, get up at 8, drink, go to bed, get up at 1, drink, go to bed, get up at 3, that thing. And he started throwing up.
Oh my gosh.
And
Oh.
and he was throwing up every day, and he wasn't eating, and he was drinking, and then he'd throw up, and he was started looking at me to feel sorry for him, and I was
Yeah.
I have to tell you once again, and this wasn't that long ago, I had to just walk by it. I had to just
Mm-hmm.
You had to shut it out to protect you.
I had to, yeah. And so, but he's looking at me and going, wow, this is really different, and it seems like she doesn't care.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, this is me showing you that I love you and I care for you, because what I have learned is I can never have the control to make him stop. As
Yeah.
hard as I wanted and tried and believe you me, I did, but you learn that you cannot do it for them. They have to do it for themselves.
Yeah.
So I just had to walk by and let him be sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, I'd fix him food, and he'd fall asleep, so he'd be too drunk to eat it, and then he'd get up and he'd start to drink, and then he'd pass out. So that's why he wasn't eating. He was having, a couple bags of popcorn here and there. But when he did eat, he was throwing up. So he did that for about 7 days.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's a long time.
And he said to me, a couple days before that, he said, well, do you think I should go to the hospital? And I said, you know what? I leave that in your hands, because no matter what I say, it's going to be the wrong answer.
Yep.
Because, I think you should. But if I say that, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, you're going to pay for
So-
You become the bad guy.
it. Yep.
Yeah, in anything that happened from that point, if I was the one who told him to go, it would all be on me. So he went, about 3 more days, and then he went and checked himself in.
Wow.
And it was hard, but I didn't go with him. I felt that we had just we had just come back from Michigan to visit his mother. She was getting older, and she said, "You know what? I don't think I have that much longer. I'd love to meet your current wife. Why don't you guys come out?" So we went out there, and just before we went out there, he had fallen here in the living room, and one of his friends was here at the time, and he busted his head open on his corner table, and he was bleeding. And I had left him out here with his friend, and I was in bed, because that's what I started doing. That was my habit. I just would go into my room. So I'm in my room, and I hear all this commotion out here, and I come out, and at this time, by now, he's in the tub, so he's butt naked. He's trying to stand up. He's got just dripping blood. I can't tell where he's bleeding from. And he tries to get up, and he falls, and he hits the tap and busts the tap completely off. And he keeps trying to get back up out of the tub, and I'm like, stop, well, now there's water spraying out, on him. And he's yelling at me to go get some wrench to, put this thing back on, and I'm trying, and like, it is not going to go on. You busted it right off. Can you not see that? And so the neighbor, our friend, had to go down in the crawl space and, turn the water off. And he is just like, oh my God, Elaine, I had no idea. I said, nobody does. Not one person knows this is how bad it is.
Wow.
Other than me. And he just completely could not believe it. And he didn't talk to Brad for weeks afterwards. He was just so upset by the whole thing. And everybody has known he drank, but not to that extent.
Not to that extent, yeah.
So that had just happened, and we were talking to the nurse, and I said to her, well, he needs to explain to you, because he kept saying he was passing out and getting sick because they changed his medications. And I kept saying, well, that's bullshit. I don't think it's your medications. You can't drink that much and not start having it affect you.
Yeah.
Do the math, But so I said to her while she was on the phone, I said, hey, well, I don't think he's being honest to you about the amount of alcohol that he's drinking, And so I told her, and she's like, oh, well, yeah, no.
Makes sense.
Well, so we get off this phone call, and oh my gosh, he lets me have it one side and down the other for telling his nurse this. I'm like, it's your nurse. You need to be telling her this. So he starts yelling at me and telling me, well, when we go to my families, you better not tell them what a drunk I am. I said, no, I'm not. Why would I? You're going to go and show them. That's what I was thinking in my head.
Yeah.
And we went on that trip, and that's exactly what he did. He passed out in front of his grandkids. Oh boy, you hear about it from his son.
I bet.
He caused all kinds of trauma while we were there. Didn't have a thing to do with me. I have to say one word about him being drunk. He proved
You're just
it.
like,
And so then I was pretty angry about that. I'm like, you yelled at me, and then you single-handedly went and ruined that trip. First time he'd seen his grandkids ever in person.
what?
Yeah.
Oh my heck.
And he hasn't seen his mother in probably 15 years either. So it turned out to be a disaster. So that's when we came back, and he started doing the throwing up and stuff.
Wow.
and checked himself in, and that was about 10 months ago.
Wow.
And so now we're where we are. But and I'm sure with you guys it's probably the same thing. I suffer from PTSD from all the verbal abuse.
Oh yeah.
That the verbal abuse that you get from them is so ugly.
Yes.
And it's really difficult to explain it to someone else that hasn't been there, because
They just don't understand. Yeah.
no, and why you are so embarrassed is because you feel like an idiot already for staying, and they're thinking, what are you doing? You need to get out of there. That's what they're thinking. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care who it is. that is their bottom line of thinking, is you need to leave, which of course it is.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to a friend who's in my situation, I'm telling them the same thing.
Yeah, get the hell out of here.
Not now. I mean, and I'm lucky that I'm that kind of person that every trauma I've ever had in my life, I pick up and say, how can I use this to better myself and help someone else?
That's awesome.
In my whole life. So, yeah.
I love it. Well, guys, let's stop for another quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and wrap this up, because I know, Janessa, you've got somewhere you got to be here in not too long. So we want to respect your time. But guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street. Or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffytown, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffytown. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffytown is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffytown stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffytown and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account. And we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffytown can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer prepackaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone, and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com. That's taffytown.com to find out more about the products and services that Taffytown offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. Again, this episode is brought to you by our platinum sponsor, Matter Behavioral, at 265 State Street in Mount Pleasant, 435-462-2781. Elaine, man, this has been an awesome show. What you shared, man, flashbacks were just going off with me like crazy because... I mean, it wasn't to the extent as yours, but the flashbacks were hitting left and right and bringing back a lot of things that I had pushed back in my head. It was just really, really coming forward for me. Yeah. One thing that you said during the second half of the show, you finally decided to take your power back. And that is so huge for us that's on the other side, to take our power back, because we end up losing. We lose ourselves, you know. We talked about PTSD before the commercial break. I didn't even know I had it. I just knew my mind was messed up. And then when I was sitting down talking to one of my wife's counselors that she was going to when she was one of the rehabs, she's the one that diagnosed me with, you know, you've got some PTSD. And it started making a little bit more sense, because a lot of people, I think, I was one of them that thought PTSD was from our first responders or those that are out there protecting our country and what they see. I had no clue it could happen to
from any trauma.
Yeah. You know, but it was happening so bad, and no wonder I was like emotional all the time, or I had a lot of energy for just a short period of time. Then it was like, man, I don't even want to freaking do anything. I don't want to move.
Yeah.
When you take your power back from the addict, for me, and it sounds like it was for you, and I've heard other people say this as well, you start taking your life back to where you start living again, to where you can start feeling like you have a life, you know, because you can't control what they're going to do. I mean, I stayed up for nights, especially after I threw my wife out drunk. I would stay up thinking, great, someone's going to get her, someone's going to rape her, I'm going to get a knock on the door. It's going to be from the police. They're going to say, we just found your wife dead in a ditch, or who knows? You know, those thoughts start going through your head. But when you start taking that power back, as hard as it was for me, it started making my life a little more bearable. Even if I did kick her out, I'm thinking, I didn't do this.
Right.
I was blaming myself for doing this. I'm not the one that did this. I'm doing this because I have to protect me, and literally you're protecting them as well. You know, and it slowly started going a little bit, you know, it started happening. And then when I did let my wife back in, and she started coming out of her little wet brain syndrome that she went through, she started noticing that I was different. I wasn't noticing, but she noticed, you know. She's like, there's something different about you. Like, it's almost like you're moving on without me. And I said, that's exactly what I'm doing. Because I cannot continue to live this way any longer. And I refuse to live that way. I finally grew a pair, let's just say, to get strong enough. I mean, really, to get strong enough to say enough's enough.
What it is.
You know, and I told her, I want you in my life. I really do.
Yeah.
But if
She
you want
has to want herself in her life.
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And if you want to be in my life, then jump on this train with me, but do not touch that alcohol, because once you do, I'm booting you all the way back to the caboose, and you ain't coming back up here again, because I'm getting on with my life. And things started changing. So, you know, I tip my hat off to you for doing that, for getting your life back. And you know, it's a learning process, and I know Janessa has gone through it. It's that learning process, and we continue to learn, and we continue to grow. And
Well, when I was talking to you Sunday, after that situation, and I said, it's weird, I feel peaceful. And I was talking, and another friend sent me a message and said, he's safe.
Yep.
And I thought, wow, I felt guilty for feeling peace. But at the same time, you have to protect them from themselves, because they put themselves in such danger. But it's short-lived when they get released. And you're like, oh my gosh, where is he now?
Yeah.
I'm actually, this just came to me. I'm actually in the middle of this book. It's called Complex PTSD. It's from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. And it has been such an eye-opener for me. It goes through and talks about, like you were saying, like the narcissist, and it has like these 4 different types of a narcissist personality, and how they try to control you, and how you can get your control back, and how you can, and what type you are. They call it the narcissist, and then they call it the fawn, the ones that try to please. They're the ultimate people pleasers.
Love everybody.
Wow.
And that was me. I was a fawn. Everything I did was for other people. I never looked at myself.
Yeah.
So learning self-care was huge for me. But it's been really eye-opening. It's educated me in, like, I mean, I learned all this in therapy, but it's like a total different perspective on taking your life back. And being like, I see you for who you are, and I'm not gonna let you do that again, you know, because it's hard when you just see it with a certain amount of people in your life, but now you can just be like, you know, anyone you meet, you can be like,
it's with everybody.
Yeah, you're like, I can guard myself and protect myself and not get used over and over and over again and lose myself to people, because that was my thing. Like, Tyrell and I had hit this point where we respected each other, and we don't do that to each other. If we do, we catch it and make amends.
Right.
But I was realizing I was letting other people do it. And so this book has been so eye-opening. I'm like, I'm not going to let anyone else do it anymore. You know?
What did you say the name of the book was?
Complex PTSD. It's
From Pete, who was it?
Pete Walker.
Pete Walker.
Yeah.
The good thing too about when you recognize that it is PTSD, for me anyways, is that I'm able to, as soon as I do it, most of the time, I'm able to stop and go, okay, that was your PTSD going right there. Because even though he's not drinking right now and he's, much more loving and, it's like two different people. If he starts to raise his voice at all,
It's a trigger.
it triggers me and I start yelling. Anything where you're any conversation from that moment on, I'm yelling at full force, and he's like, he doesn't like it when I yell, and so now he's yelling higher than I am.
This competition.
And he's like, you will never be able to yell louder than me, so you might as well, give it up right now. But anyway, we start, we've done that a few times, to where then I had to stop myself and go, why did you go there? And learn that that's my PTSD, and I have to at that moment stop him and say, look, I'm triggered right now, so we're going to end this conversation in this moment while I gather my real self back together for a minute.
Yeah.
And then we can finish this discussion. Because you can't go from that, like, you get triggered and immediately something in your body goes up to here. And even though now I've recognized it, I'm still here. And now I've got to take that time to step away from him to
cool down.
Get your thoughts
to go
back.
get grounded, and then come back to it. So recognizing that you have the PTSD, I think, is helpful in learning the tools at that point, what to do, when you realize it's triggered, and figuring out what those triggers are, because that's not the only trigger I have there. I have, probably most of you do too, we have a gazillion triggers in there of things that they do or say or whatever that can just send you to another place really quickly.
It's good, Elaine, that that you started recognizing it, and Janessa and I was talking about that earlier this morning, about being able to start recognizing your thoughts. For her, she wrote a lot of stuff down, that was helping her with things. And me, I started just paying attention a little bit more of what my reactions were and the thoughts that were going on in my head to start making me realize as well that either I needed to back off or I needed to think about this a little bit more. But guys, man, what a great show. I mean, I know it is this way with every show. We could sit here for hours and talk, but unfortunately,
I was thinking that very thing. You think when you come on, you're like, oh man, I don't know if I've got enough to talk about.
It happens.
And now I'm sitting here feeling like, oh my gosh, there's so
more.
I'm not done.
Well, and that's why we don't hold our shows right to an hour. We want to give our guests an opportunity to share as much as they possibly can. I mean, we just feel like it's important. The message needs to be needs to be put out there. And to hear people like yourself and some of our other guests and, Janessa and Sylvia and myself, and to be able to talk about it, it's so therapeutic even for us. It really helps because you have to get this stuff out. That was one of my biggest problems, is I was holding all that stuff in because, again, it's the shame and the pain. Because it is felt on both sides. And you don't want to let anybody know what you're going through, but all you're doing is damaging yourself when you're not doing it.
You don't think they'll understand, and then you realize when you start speaking out, and that's how we met.
That's exactly.
And it helped me because I didn't leave my house in January. I thought, one more child, half my children are battling drug problems.
It takes you. So, Elaine, to wrap this up, you said at the beginning of the show that you do life coaching. So what type of life coaching is it, and how can somebody find you if they are interested in using your services?
Okay. I'm still working on my website right now.
Okay.
So I can't give you that information as right this minute. I mean, I could, you can go in there, but it's not finished. And so, but people can find me on Dreamweavers Life. Actually, hold on. It may not, I think for Facebook, it changed it. It's Dreamweavers Wellness Coaching. And you can find me on there. I've started a space there on just kind of wellness. I'm having a difficult time. You know, they say you have to pick your niche, right?
Yeah.
That's the big thing these days. You have to have a niche. Well, I don't have a specific niche because I've been through, divorce. I've done the alcohol myself where I abused the alcohol. I've been on the other side of the alcohol. I've just been through. I've had the traumatic car accident. I don't remember anything about my car accident, so I had PTSD from that as well. So I've been through it all, and in my career, taking care of other people and the teaching I was doing, I didn't teach just one thing. I taught all of this stuff, I taught about depression. So I'm having a hard time saying, I only coach people who are dealing with addiction. No, I help people who have been divorced. I help people who are just having some relationship problems. I'm that person who can guide them and give them the resources no matter where they are in their journey in their life. Because I've been doing it so many years.
Yeah.
So cool.
In different avenues. But the world's changing now and everything's online.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to do the online thing. But I did just get the brain injury place that I worked for. They contacted me and said, "Hey, Elaine, we'd love it if you could come and do some classes with our guys 5 hours a day." So
good for you. That's awesome.
Starting out here pretty quick, just getting my ducks in the row. But I'd like to start a podcast too. That's in my on my dream thing. So I need to talk to you, Al, and find out how that's all done.
We really don't know. No,
just did it.
Yeah.
That's how I've been doing everything I'm doing is teaching myself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, we can definitely help with that.
So yeah, I just, I'm not one of those people that's out there to be a millionaire from doing this. I charged $27 for an hour, because people who are in our position, a half an hour is not enough. It's like having this conversation. There's so much still left unsaid, so when people are in trauma or they're dealing with these kinds of things, a half an hour to me is just not, you haven't even scratched the surface of what's going on with that person to know where to guide them if you haven't had a longer conversation than that. Mm-hmm. So I do have that information up on that website.
Okay.
How they can get a hold of me and, what the cost of that is. And the group, it's just, I think I'm up to like 58 people in that group, but it's, really, I'm just putting things on there, posting a lot of good information on wellness and mental health and addiction and, different things that I'm kind of focusing on that.
Okay.
So it's a great group. If you know friends, invite them.
And it's Dreamweavers, right? Wellness coaching.
Yes, Dreamweavers Wellness Coaching is what the Facebook page is on there.
I think I've already joined the group, but I'll double check because I think you sent me an invite. But I will double check.
I think so.
Yeah.
If I remember right, I remember seeing your name as being one of the ones that
I'll double check
came on and liked it or something anyways.
Yeah, I do my best to support other people as much as possible because we all need that support from
Right.
anywhere that we can get
I
it.
don't have a lot of people to talk to. Like, I don't have a lot of connections, as far as like people who have been through it,
Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure for me to talk to you guys and, feel like, hey, I've got some comrades out there.
Yeah.
I'm not alone.
Well, we are definitely here.
People just are afraid to talk to, you have 580 friends on your Facebook, but nobody rarely talks about any of this kind of stuff. And I often wonder, if we were just honest, how many of those people would come on and be like,
probably more than half.
I am too. And so I've often thought about starting to get more honest just on my regular page and seeing how many people
will
say something,
That's a good thing.
But
yeah.
I haven't quite got there. I'm a little nervous of getting the nitty-gritty out there.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Well, you took a huge step today. I mean, you really did. You took a huge step by being a guest on the show, being vulnerable to come on and tell a story of what's going on in your life is not easy. It's not easy at all. And our audience is growing. It's growing weekly. More and more people are being reached. And I think that's why more and more people are actually reaching out to us going, I want to be on your show. I just met a guy at the gym that I go to every morning. So I'm working out, and I just started shooting the crap with him, and we started talking a little bit more, and he's battled addiction. And he's going to counseling right now, and he moved out of Ogden and moved up here to Draper, and he's got him a job, and he goes, man, I don't know if I'm really ready to, talk about what's gone on in my life. And he goes, do you got a card? And I do my best to take cards with me everywhere I go. And I had one in my little pouch there at the gym, and I gave one to him. Didn't hear from him. And I actually even told myself, I says, I won't hear from him. He's not ready, which is okay. It's not my call. And then, I think it was Monday. My phone rang, and it was a number I didn't recognize, and something told me to answer. I was at work, and we were having lunch, and I answered it, and he goes, Al, this is Austin. I'm the guy from the gym. And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he goes, how soon can you get me on the show? I was like, are you serious?
I'm ready.
And he goes, yeah, I'm ready. So we've got him scheduled to be coming on the show in April, which is really, really cool. And from what I understand, this guy's got a hell of a story, which I'm looking forward to it. But so Elaine, again,
really wish I could get Brad on here with you.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well,
I want to talk to that man.
Him taking feeling like it's something that's important enough for him to take some time off of work to do it.
Yeah.
But I personally think that it would do him, it would help him a lot because it would be his first experience in doing anything that had the possibility of helping someone else who is in the same position.
Yeah. Well, and
he's never had that opportunity. I've had that over and over and over again in my life. Where I pick up from this trauma and I move on and help somebody and grow from there.
Yeah.
He hasn't had that experience, and so I sure wish I can talk him into that sometime.
Well, and there'll be a time when he is ready, and just with him even sharing his story, he has no clue how many people he's going to help. We get messages quite a bit, where people say this episode was great, and sometimes the episodes piss us off because of what's happened, right? You and I were just kind of talking about, the dope sick one and the crime of the century. It really gets your blood boiling.
Oh my gosh.
But at least it gives you a whole new perspective, so for Ed Bish. Well, again, Elaine, we got to cut this. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much for.
Anytime you need a guest host, let me know.
Oh, hey, yeah, we would love to have you in the studio. We're always looking for new people to come in, and Janessa is one of our regulars that's going to come. She comes in every other week, and then we have Melody that's going to come in every other week, and it's kind of crazy because you, Melody, and Janessa, I all know you from those classes, from the classes we were going to. Yeah, who would have ever thought?
Did you say you were at the Eric class too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Janessa was there as well.
Yeah.
And we met because we were
in a group.
And sharing stories.
I did talk to you at some point.
I remember it. They had me and you together, and we shared our stories.
Okay, yeah.
Small world.
Really creepy.
Yeah, it is, right?
It was only like 15 minutes, but it was really powerful. I actually think back on it a lot.
I remember that now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how all of us have came together and doing this. So
cool.
Yeah. So guys, do you got anything else you want to share before we sign off? Not right now?
Good.
Okay.
This was awesome.
All right. Well, ladies, thank you. It was a privilege being with all of you lovely ladies today. So thank you so much for being here with us. And we're going to... when JD was here...
I'm going to hook up with you two ladies on Facebook.
Yeah, for sure.
When
Let's do that. Come find me.
I will.
When JD was here, he would always remember, and I'm doing my best to remember now, but... if you like us, if you enjoy what you hear on these podcasts, go to YouTube, go to all the major platforms, and subscribe to us, because it really helps us out. So guys, we're going to end you with this, as we do with every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.